Hey guys, welcome to week 7. We have 3 more weeks left, including this week. So till the end of May, and then we're totally done. This week we're going to finish off the human reproductive system. Last week we did the female part of the human reproductive system. This week we're going to go over the male reproductive system. We're going to keep it kind of light this week and next week to give everyone time to catch up on assignments in preparation for the end of the school year. So light on assignments this week. Next week, I don't think I'm going to assign a lot either. Next week, we'll have some assignments on dissections. I think I'm going to have an assignment on the frog dissection, like a virtual dissection with questions. And then the last week of school, I'm going to leave that open with no assignments for everyone to get caught up before the end of the year. Make sure you're looking at your grades. This quarter's grades do count. I think everybody knows that. So we're going to be averaging together your third quarter grade and your fourth quarter grade to get your grade for the second half of the year. And if you currently have an F, it is possible for you to fail and have to redo the second half of the year because biology is a requirement to graduate. So if you are in that situation, you need to get your assignments turned in, get your grade up so that that doesn't happen. And I feel like the things we've been doing, they're really not that hard and they don't take a ton of time. I've tried to keep it to where the workload wasn't too bad because I know this is different that we're working online, and make sure that if you have any questions or anything, you're emailing me right away so that we can get on that and get you going as soon as we can. All right, so let's get started with week 7 assignments for biology. So all assignments are due on Monday, May 18th. You have 1 week to complete all of them. Assignment 1 is the reproductive system notes part 2. Last week we went over the reproductive system notes and I went over the parts that were on the female reproductive system. So this is the same notes, but I'm going over the male parts. The same slides, but I'm going over the male parts. So assignment 1, you're going to watch the reproductive system notes YouTube video, which is this video. After I go over the assignments, I'm going to go through the notes, and you will have to watch the end of this video where I go over the notes and pause and be looking at the diagrams to be able to complete the other assignments for this week. Let's see, so assignment 2 is a description of the path of sperm in the male reproductive system. So using the reproductive system notes 2 on the male reproductive system, step 1, set up your paper as shown below. Your answers, when you're filling out this that you're setting up, you're going to have 2 sentences for each of these, 1 through 5, for full credit. If you have less than that, I'm taking off points. So make sure you do 2 sentences each. So set it up with number 1, testes, that's where the sperm start. Number 2, epididymis. 3, vas deferens. 4, seminal vesicle. And 5, urethra. Those are the stops that it makes on the way through the male human reproductive system. So set up your paper like that. Step 2, you're going to be using the notes that I go over in the video after I go over the assignments in this video to do your paper. So using my descriptions of the functions of each part of the male reproductive system and the diagram of the male reproductive system shown here and also in the notes, describe the path of a sperm through the male reproductive system from the start in the testes to leaving the body through the urethra. For numbers 1 through 5 on your paper, describe what each part does and describe the path of the sperm for that step. 2 sentences for each step. And I'll give you some examples here when we get to the notes on how to do that. So there's the diagram with them numbered where it starts at 1 and where it leaves the male body at number 5. All right, step 3, how to turn in this assignment. You can either type your answers into an EDSB message or write them out on a piece of paper and take a picture. If you take a picture, look at your picture and make sure that I can read and see everything. Then if you're in periods 1, 3, or 4, email it to Mr. Harrah. If you're in periods 6 or 7, email it to Mr. Mitchell or to Mr. Harrah. All right, assignment 3 is responding to this week's poll question. You responding to the poll and me keeping track of you logging into EDSB every day will be your attendance for this week. Plus you'll get points for this assignment. So step 1, locate the poll question on your feed for the biology class. Look at this week's video on how to do the assignments. If you're confused, so I'm explaining it right now. You're going to see something like this pop up in your feed. It'll say Mr. Mitchell or Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Harrah. And then you can just click the answer that you want to do for the poll question. It won't say take test. This is for if a test pops up. And then step 2, answer the poll question by clicking on the answer that you choose. So nice and light for this week, leading into the end of the year, trying to give people a little leeway to get caught up on assignments. So we don't get too bogged down right before the end of the year. We're very close. All right. So let me pull up the notes. Give me just a second here. All right. So we're going to go over the reproductive system again, but now we're just going over the male parts of the reproductive system. So it's going to be the first few slides in this show. All right, negative feedback, homeostasis. Homeostasis is the regulation of an organism's internal environment to maintain conditions needed for life. The reason we're talking about this, something very important in the male reproductive system, is maintaining homeostasis for the sperm. I don't know if this has ever crossed your mind, if you've ever wondered this, but why would such a vulnerable part of the male anatomy be on the outside of their body? Why would men's testicles be on the outside of their body when it's something that could get hurt very easily? If you've ever been kicked in the crotch, if you're a guy, or I'm sure you've seen it on TV or something, or a friend, it's pretty painful, right? So why put the testicles on the outside of the body? If I was going to design a male human body, I would put them like in the middle, like inside your chest next to the heart, right? Can't get hurt there. The reason is they have to maintain homeostasis. The sperm have to be a certain temperature in order to function correctly. So they have to be in the scrotum, sort of hanging outside the main cavity of the human body in order to keep the proper temperature, right? If a couple wants to have a baby and they're having trouble, like a married couple, they might go to the doctor. And one of the things that the doctor might say to do is for the man to wear boxers. If he wears briefs that are tight, I don't know if you're familiar with like the different types of underwear, but if he wears briefs that are tight, it can keep things warmer down there. They might say wear boxers because it will cool things off and that will help the sperm be able to function better. Negative feedback, a change in conditions triggers a response in your body that counteracts the change. So an example of this, like you're familiar with shivering, right? So if you get cold, the negative feedback that you see from your body is your body reacts. If you get cold, you shiver. That is your body trying to warm itself up. So if I'm cold, shivering is the trembling of my muscles, and that is your body's natural response to try and warm itself up. Shivering and the trembling of your muscles actually helps to raise your temperature. Now, it can only do so much. It's only going to help a little bit. Obviously, if it's negative 10 degrees and I go outside with no clothes on, I'm not going to be able to shiver and be okay. But shivering can help a tiny bit, but it's not going to save your life if you're, in the Arctic with not the proper clothes on or things like that. When you get too hot, you sweat. So that's negative feedback from your body. If you're too hot, your body's going to start perspiring. When your perspiration, your sweat evaporates off of your body, that helps to cool your body slightly. Also, it's only going to do so much. It only helps a little bit. And when you're too cold, you shiver. All right, so the male reproductive system. Male reproductive structure is called the testes and are located in a pouch called the scrotum. So the testicles are where sperm are made. Men have 2 testicles and they're located in a pouch between their legs, their groin area. That pouch is called their scrotum. Sperm are produced in the testes. That is where sperm are made. They have to be around 37 degrees Celsius. So Celsius is a little bit different than Fahrenheit. You'd have to do a conversion to see what Fahrenheit would be, but 37 degrees Celsius. So here's the path that sperm travel through the male reproductive system. Sperm develop in the seminiferous tubules. I'm going to show you a chart here to explain all this. They are made in the testes, then they are stored in the seminiferous tubules until they're ready to start leaving the male's body. Men produce about 100 to 200 million sperm a day. So every day, men are producing 100 to 200 million sperm. Alongside the testicles are the epididymis, is a set of coiled tubes where sperm are stored and mature. Sperm are released from the body through the vas deferens, which transport sperm containing fluid called semen. So what comes out of a man's body is not just pure sperm, it also has a liquid in it that's called semen, and that is made in the man's body. We'll talk about that. Lastly, sperm, semen, and urine exit the body through the urethra. So sperm with the semen, the liquid from the male's body, are mixed together. That comes out during reproduction. And also when a man has to get rid of excess liquid with salts and waste from his body, that's urine when he urinates. It comes out the same tube. So here's a picture of the male reproductive system. You're going to use this for assignment 2. I'm going to go over the parts and what they do. I want you to look up each part and look up the function of the part. So you're going to use Google to Google the function. And for each number on your assignment, you're going to write what that part does that you're going to look up, and then you're going to write under it how the sperm travels through that part, where it comes from and where it goes to next. So number 1, these are the testicles here, down the bottom. Number 1, the testicles. That's where sperm are made. The testicles, the testes, you want to put this for number 1 on your paper, have seminiferous tubules inside the testicles. That's where the testes are made. So in the testes, there are the seminiferous tubules, and that's where sperm are made and stored for the first step, right? The next step is when they leave the seminiferous tubules in the testicles, then sperm are packed into the epididymis. So every day, about 100 to 200 million sperm are packed into this little pouch on the side of the testicles called the epididymis. So for number 2, you would say what the function is of the epididymis. Google that on Google, right? And then you would tell me that the sperm leave the testes, they leave the seminiferous tubules, and then they are packed into the epididymis where they wait. That would be number 2 on your paper. Number 3, up here at the top right, is the vas deferens. So during reproduction, during intercourse, the sperm are going to be pushed out of the epididymis, and they are going to travel through the vas deferens. So you can see this tube, look at my cursor, that goes up around here. It goes over the pelvic bone, around the bladder, around the back of the bladder here, and that's step 3, going through the vas deferens. So for number 3 on your paper, you're going to look up on Google the function of the vas deferens, and then you're going to tell me for the second part that the sperm are leaving the epididymis during reproduction, traveling up through the vas deferens, around the pelvic bone, around the bladder, and that's the second part of number 3. Number 4, you're going to talk about the prostate gland. The prostate gland and the seminal vesicle, they both make fluids inside them. So when sperm comes out of a man, it's not just concentrated sperm, it's called semen because it's a mixture of sperm and then also liquid from the prostate and also liquid from the seminal vesicle. That's why there's a 4 here and a 4 over here, because both of these are putting liquid in with the sperm when they pass by. So number 4, you're going to look up on Google the function of the prostate as far as reproduction and the function of the seminal vesicle as far as reproduction. And you're going to tell me how they add liquid to the sperm to make semen, a mixture of sperm and those 2 liquids. And you're going to tell me that the sperm are coming through the vas deferens and then they're passing by the seminal vesicle and the prostate, and those both are adding liquids to the sperm as they're passing by. That would be number 4. All right, number 5 is the urethra. So from here, now we've got sperm with the liquid from the prostate and the seminal vesicle mixed together, which is considered semen. That's what leaves the man's body, and it is going to travel through the urethra and out of the man's body. So for number 5, you're going to look up on Google what the function of the urethra is as far as reproduction. And then you're going to tell me that the sperm mixed with liquid from the prostate and the seminal vesicle, which is now semen, that mixture together, travels from the vas deferens through the urethra and out of the man's body for number 5. So make sure for each of the 5 steps, you're including the function of the parts that are included in that step, and then where the sperm is traveling for that step. 2 sentences apiece to get full credit. All right, you're probably going to have to pause and replay this section of the video as you do the assignment. All right, so what is a sperm made out of? Additional structures. The seminal vesicle and the prostate gland both help to produce a nutrient-rich seminal fluid. So that is mixed together with the sperm, and then that leaves the man's body as semen, that mixture together. It gives sperm cells nutrients and protects it from the harsh environment of the vagina. And that might sound strange, the harsh environment of the vagina, but when sperm goes into a female's body, it's actually very hard for a sperm to make it to the egg because the woman's immune system actually attacks the sperm because her body sees it as a foreign invader. The pH inside of the vagina, it actually helps to break down the sperm. So the reason why there's 100 to 200 million is because most of them are going to die along the way as they're traveling toward the egg, right? Only one of them is going to make it to fertilize the egg. So we start off with something like 100 to 200 million that leave the man's body, and then traveling up through the vagina, a lot of them are going to not make it through there. Then they're going to go through the cervix into the uterus. So we've lost some more sperm on our way up there. The female's immune system is attacking some of them because it sees them as foreign invaders. Then when it gets up to the fallopian tubes, there's 2 tubes, one going one direction, one going the other, that go up to the ovaries where the eggs are dropped. Every month, only one ovary on one side of the woman's body drops an egg. So half of the sperm are going to go into the wrong fallopian tube. So there is half of what was left gone there. So the ones that make it to the actual egg, it's probably going to be, you know, a few hundred or a couple thousand that actually make it to the egg. And then the egg has a process of ensuring that only one sperm is going to make it inside. So only one sperm is going to get through that outer layer and make it to fertilize the egg. So here is the sperm. On the sperm, this is the head, the mid piece here, and then the tail. The man's genetic material is kept inside of the head of the sperm, and it's going to fertilize the egg and then mix with the woman's genetic material. And that's why a person is a mixture of the genes of the father and of the mother. And something interesting, back in, you know, the 1800s, a couple hundred years ago, when microscopes were first invented and they first saw sperm, they used to think that there was a tiny person in the head of the sperm. And that's how people were made, that there was a tiny person and that this went into a woman's body and it developed into a baby inside the woman's body. And of course we know that's wrong, because we know about genetics and DNA and things like that now. So seminal fluid plus sperm equals semen. So fluid from the seminal vesicle and fluid from the prostate plus sperm equals semen. All right, and this is where we get back to the female reproductive system that we already talked about last week. So that is the end, if I can make it back here, of the notes for this week. So let's go back to the assignments. Give me just a second. All right, so number one, assignment one, you're going to watch this video. Number two is the description of the path of the sperm. Make sure you get 2 sentences for each. They're going to Google, look up the function of each of the parts. What is the testes? What do they do? And you're going to describe the path of the sperm for each of these, for numbers 1 through 5, and 2 sentences for full credit. You're going to use the video. You're going to be pausing and looking at it to be able to complete the assignment. You can use this diagram here and in the notes. And then number 3 is just responding to this week's poll question, which I'll put up when I post your assignments. All right. So I hope you guys are doing good. We're winding down the end of the year. We've got 3 more weeks, including this week. This week, we're finishing off the reproductive system, talking about the male part of the reproductive system. Next week, we're going to go over dissections, maybe some virtual dissections of the frog. And then the last week of school, we're just going to leave that open with no assignments for people to catch up and make sure they get their grades up before we end the school year. I think they're going to be sending your parents and you some important messages about when to turn your books in and things like that. I think this week you can pick up your yearbooks. So look out for text messages from Parent Link for those important dates. And I hope you guys are doing good. The weather's nice. It's beautiful and sunny today. You know, have a good week, and I will talk to you later.